Right, I muted everyone and I'm recording. Right, this is 12 Days of Fountain Pen. Once again, we are back, and tonight we're going to be with Noah Maasarani. I hope I didn't butchered your name, Noah Maasarani. I need to learn how to pronounce that. And he's going to be talking to us about fountain pens and fountain pen maintenance and fountain pen nibs as well, because he's a nib meister, and magic. He does some wizardry in nibs that we all love. We are sponsored by Robert Oster, which kindly decided to release the citrus inks with us. And it's the first release of the ink, so it's going to take until 1st of January for anyone to be able to, any store to be able to purchase it. So around the 15th, it's probably going to take about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks for anyone to be able to have this ink 3 weeks in January. So yay, that's only for us. So send an email to 12 Days of Fountain Pens at bml.io if you want to win this lovely, lovely ink. We are also sponsored by Dance Pens, with the great Dennis, the Emperor of Dance Pens, sent us this wonderful, wonderful Vanner gun with a custom, one-of-a-kind blank that he casted, and it's wonderfully beautiful with a buck nib. This pen is amazing. I've been using it to review it. And when he sent me to review, the next day he said, well, I want to give it away to the quiz, have made the winner of the quiz have it, and there you go. We are also sponsored by Grammy Pens, who sent us this lovely Lalex pen, which is a stainless, no, it's not stainless steel, it's silver. The silver. Okay, and mobile needs to be quiet. It's a sterling silver pen, and we are also sponsored by Dragon's Meat, who provided us this Zoom account, and by iZods, who tomorrow is going to decide what is going to be it's not going to decide, he already knows what's going to be, but he said he's only going to tell me tomorrow what's going to be the grand prize for the quiz tomorrow. So what can I do? Tomorrow everyone will know the grand prize, but it's going to be a pen. The only thing I know that is a pen. So without further delay, let's go with Noah, and he will be talking to us. Please, Noah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Bernardo, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. I kind of always feel a bit awkward when put in a spotlight, but I'll give it my best. Anyway, I'm going to start with a little bit about me, and then I'm going to talk today about fountain pens, basically what they are, how they work, and from there, focus on the idea of fountain pen care, what to look out for, what to do, what not to do, and the like. I'll try to talk maybe for about half an hour. And I'll leave 30 to 40 minutes, I don't know, and then I'll leave the rest of the time for any Q's and A's. Okay, without further ado, I'm just gonna get straight to the point. A little bit about me. My name is Noah Maasarani. I'm happy with that pronunciation. It's Maasarani, but English lacks a few letters here and there. Anyway, I've been into fountain pens pretty much my whole life. From a very young age. My sisters, let's say around early 90s, I remember them using what I believe was a Hero copy of a Parker 51. And the only available ink was Hero ink, Hero bottled ink, which is probably where my love for phenol smell in ink comes from. That was pretty much what defines a fountain pen, and it was used pretty much by the previous generation. My generation didn't use it. We only had devil sticks, quoting Bernardo here. My first fountain pen I got around the age of 14 from a friend. He said he won it in a prize, in a competition. He wasn't going to use it. Nobody uses fountain pens. I do. I was fascinated by the concept, by the look, by you know, the idea that this is something humans have made a long time ago and it's been reliable all this time, the history. I was too young to understand much, but I was fascinated by it, and I've used it actively in school. I was the only one in my school who used a fountain pen at the age of 14 and 15. I also saw around the same year a Schaefer Quasi Imperial 440, similar to this one. And that was the second fountain pen I've ever had, and I was in love. But of course, you didn't have access to these where I came from. Fast forward a little bit to my university study, I had a healthy fascination with stationery and art items, everything that is pen related or ink related or graphite or whatever. Throughout my university study, I was able to acquire a few fountain pens, but they were all probably Chinese and I had no idea what brands were. The only name you could hear was Parker, and you didn't have access to a Parker. But anyway, fast forward a little bit, and I came to the UK in 2010 for a study, and one of the first things that I did in the UK was buy two things that I didn't have access to there, where I come from: a camera and a bundle of fountain pens from eBay. Those fountain pens, one of them was working, the rest weren't. The one that was working was a very reliable Schaefer School 3 third iteration pen. This is the very one, and I've had it since. It's very reliable, writes the first stroke, even if you keep it in a drawer for 3 or more years. There you go, platinum. I called it Tomodachi, which is Japanese for friend, and that's because it's reliable. It's always there. Yeah, I name my pens. I know, I'm mad. You'll find out. Anyway, my study period in the UK was rather stressful, very, very difficult to go through. So I didn't get anything throughout for various reasons. I finished around 2016 and the pressure exploded in the form of me buying fountain pens left, right, and center just to help myself stay sane. A mechanism of staying sane, you can say that. Around that time, 2016, 2017, is when I joined Fountain Pens UK Facebook group. And it's been a downhill spiral, deep hole from there. The rest is history, as they say. Anyway, a combination of me being mechanically, technically, scientifically inclined or minded and being skint meant that I had to do the repairs on everything I had myself. Some of you might identify. So eventually I repaired the pens that I got from eBay 6 or 7 years before, and started doing it for friends. So if somebody had a problem with that pen, I'll do it for them. And I did pretty much most repairs except for nibs. I considered nibs to be a very personal point, and I was worried about messing up anybody's nib. So I did my own, I didn't do anybody else's. With time, a couple of my friends encouraged me to do more of this, to get the word out, do it for other people. And I suppose 2020 came, things got downhill and for everyone from there. And I felt there was a bit of a lack of a pen technician in our group. So I started doing services for other people, and a couple polls later on Fountain Pens UK, and the Pen Doctor was born. The Pen Doctor was pretty much named by you guys. You saw how kind of Bernardo started with all this kind of magic wizard. He does everything. Yeah, he can turn, he can repair the pen with his teeth, which sometimes I do. Oh, no, I don't. Yeah, I'm a bit, you're laughing there, Bernardo. Yeah, so I was a bit wary of kind of the grandeur of the word, the Pen Doctor, but I do my best with everything that I can put my hands on. And I'll take it personal in a way. There's a little bit of me in everything that I do. But anyway, the Pen Doctor, I consider it to be a community project, a community thing, something that was made for you guys and by you guys. And here I am, the end of 2020, and I might as well do something that I like. So I'm pretty much doing this now full time. Anyway, it's the end of 2020. It's not been an easy year for most of us, a strange year, if to say the least. But let's all thank Bernardo and for the Fountain Pen UK community for this wonderful event that we have here, which we can have. No, mute yourself, Bernardo.
Come on, mate, you're gonna make me cry here.
No, you can cry on mute. The thing is, I'm very grateful for such an end of a hard year, because it's been difficult for all of us. All the stuff that happened, I just told you how the Pen Doctor kind of was born. That was all 2020, a very strange year, and ending it with an event like this is having an impact on everybody here. I know it has on me, relieving a lot of pressure, having such a community spirit in a year where I think people felt very isolated for a very long time. So yeah, thank you, Bernardo, and thank you everyone for making this happen. Anyway, I also have you to thank for setting me up with this, because the event, he pretty much decided I was speaking, and he decided that I was, what the topic was, and all I did was, all I had to say was, yes, boss, I'll do it. So thank you, but I really feel privileged to be here and to be able to talk to all of you, despite the fact that, you know, I'm a bit nervous just being in the spotlight, but, you know, it's something that everybody's doing for everybody. So thank you for the opportunity.
That's what friends are for, mate.
Cheers, mate. And anyway, that's a little bit about me. That's a little bit of what got me here, kind of along a short history from probably 1990 something to 2010. The topic that Bernardo chose was fountain pen care. It was very difficult to pin down just what I'm going to talk about. So I've decided I'm only going to be talking about fountain pens, the makeup of a fountain pen, and see
we are having technical problems with Noah. Let's wait a little bit, see what's going on his side. And in the meantime,
Bernardo.
Yay, he's back. He's back.
Yeah, so I told you, I know my luck, and something is definitely going to happen. The light went off, the monitor went off, and I have no idea what's happening. Can I'm now on phone, and I don't know how to use Zoom on the phone. Give me a second. Oh, this is bigger than I think.
You're doing great, mate. You're doing great.
I think something happened in the whole home, because my internet is off. Anyway, sorry, hold on. Yes? Okay, our house electricity fuse went down.
Oh, okay. Sorted.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, not sorted. I don't have time. Anyway, so if you can bear with a bit of a shaky kind of camera, please do.
Sure.
Actually, anyway, I'm going to switch my camera anyway in a bit, because I want to show you a bit of. I have a few pens here to show, and we'll take it from there. Anyway, what is a fountain pen? Let's stop beating around the bush. Okay, is this light enough?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I've already shown you my two chafers. What is a fountain pen? A fountain pen is a controlled leak, a very common word that circulates around the internet. What is a controlled leak? This is fluid in a bottle. It's not going anywhere because it's sealed all around. That's your ink reservoir. If you have a channel there with a nib and the ink goes just from there, you have a fountain pen out of a bottle. The concept is very simple, really. So anything that has to do with what to pay attention to and what to know that's water. What to pay attention for, what to look out for, will have to do with one of these things: the ink reservoir, the channel, or the nib. The ink reservoir, the channel, or the nib. The rest is body, which we're going to talk about anyway. So where do we start from? Let's start with the body, then go to different filling systems, and then go to inks, and then finally nibs. Okay, so we're starting with the body. What can go wrong with the body? Some pens are made from metal, and the metal is usually lacquered. So we'll start with, I don't have it here. I had a Waterman Hemisphere. That's a lacquered metal body pen. And lacquer will crack and will peel. So that is one thing that you have to watch out for if you like to keep a nice pen. Other material, other than that, not much can go wrong with metal. Some metals will patina, some of them will oxidize, depending on whether they have a, I think the power is back, or oxidization or something. If you get a patina on your pen and you want to get rid of it, you can polish it. We can talk about polishing later. Other materials, plastics. I actually have an outline here somewhere, but because my monitor went off, hold on. Okay, so body care. So we're starting to talk about scratches first. Lacquer we've already talked about. The next thing is caps. Caps will scratch wherever they go. Full stop. Not much you can do about it. I have here a Pelican M805 Stresemann. It's rather new when I got it, and now not too long later, there are micro scratches just where the cap goes. Now, if you post your pen, which means you put the cap on the back, you should also expect scratches here. So depending on your pen material, whether you want it scratched or not. Yes, but look, Bernardo, look. Yeah, Bernardo's pulling his hair right now because he doesn't like pens posting. I don't like pens posting also, but the kind of things that I do for you guys. Some pens are pretty sensitive to posting. The most expensive example is Urushi lacquer. That will probably scratch. It's irreparable. Let's say it's difficult to repair. So these are not the kind of things that you repair. But if your pen is made of a material that you can polish, then you can do that. You would need to watch out for other things. For example, if there's an imprint, if you polish the whole thing, the imprint will fade. You're basically taking a layer of material off. That's scratches and lacquers. Now, the other thing to watch out for is cracks. We're still focusing on body parts. Cracks. Where do you see cracks in pens? I'm going to grab an example. Two examples. So I have here my Eco. TWSBIs are quite well known for cracking pens, or for their pens cracking. Mostly I see cracks on transparent plastics, especially injection molded, where the plastic itself is rather brittle. Why do cracks happen? Usually stress. So if you drop the pen, if you cap the pen and squeeze tight, that's a reason for the cap to crack. And here you see there's an O-ring here for the cap that seals it a little bit. But look at the other example, which is quite unfortunately a well-known example of pens cracking. This is the Pilot 823. Sorry, guys, I'm going to try not to read the questions. I'll answer them later. I'm on phone. It's very difficult to use the phone. So anyway, what happens with this pen is that there's been a lot of reports of cracks around this area, and also I've seen some around this area. What's happening here now? Pilot says don't disassemble this pen. If you do, it's going to crack. Problem number one: the kind of material they used is prone to cracking. Problem number two: there's an O-ring here, an O-ring here, and these O-rings inside cause stress, internal stress on the barrel itself. So again, any impact, or if you disassemble your pen, most people might want to tighten it when they put it back together. That's a reason for them to crack. What you have to do when you screw in anything, really, whether it's a barrel or a cap, is don't go too hard. So basically, I would go just like that. Once it's stopped, finger tight. That's it. That's all you need to tighten. That's not going anywhere. A cap or anything that screws. Okay, trying not to take a lot of time. Anything that I missed, you can, guys, just ask in the Q&As later. I'm trying to now work from memory. Filling systems, what kind of filling systems are there? Fountain pens, as I said, are an ink reservoir, a channel, and a feed. So how do fountain pens carry their ink? This is a click pen, and if you open it, you find there's nothing there, and there's a huge opening here. Now, this is an eyedropper. Basically, this carries the ink straight in the barrel. So the barrel is the ink reservoir. It's called an ink dropper, of course, because you get your ink and you fill it with an eyedropper, of course. You put screw the thing back together. Usually they come with ebonite feeds, which means the flow of ink is already high, and you're good to go. Now, things to watch out for with eyedroppers, mainly heat. The heat from your hand will expand the air bubble inside, and it's going to cause the common phenomenon known as burping, where you're basically writing and suddenly a blob of ink goes on your paper. That's because of your finger heat. How to avoid it? Best keep the pen full. So the fuller it is, the more ink there is, the less air there is, and the less likely it's going to burp. What if it keeps burping? Well, tough, I suppose. Maybe narrow the channel or something. Anyway, these are eyedroppers. Would I carry an eyedropper with me anyway? I would not, because if you shake it a little bit, likely ink is going to spill in the cap, on your carpet, on your car, wherever you go, and that's not ideal for me. I wouldn't carry an eyedropper, and I wouldn't store them upright that way. Okay, so an eyedropper carries the ink in the barrel. What about other types? Other types of pens carry inks. Well, the variations of fountain pens really center around the filling system or the ink reservoir system. So a whole family of filling systems is what I call sac fillers. And sac fillers have all sorts of types and mechanisms to fill the sacs. So this is a Parker 51. It has a sac here. In this case, it's a silicone sac. In other cases, it's a rubber sac. And what you do is that you press the sac, expels the air, and when you release the pressure, the ink gets sucked up. Very simple mechanism, but many different pens use it differently. This particular one is called an aerometric, just because Parker called it that. You press the air out and it sucks the ink in. You have lever fillers, where basically the sac is already there, and you have a lever. The lever, when you pull the lever out, there's a bar inside that pushes the sac for you. So instead of you kind of removing the barrel, it's all on the outside. There's another mechanism called the leverless, for example, where you have a twist knob here, but inside the barrel, there's like an arm, and all it does is that it twists a little bit, compresses the sac, and then releases it out. So many different mechanisms, but it's this same concept. There are other ways, for example, touchdown fillers, and I think pneumatic fillers, if I'm not wrong. I may have got the name wrong. They do the same thing, but they use air to compress the sac. So when you strike the rod down, this is not a touchdown filler, but just to show you, you kind of pull something on behind, push it down, and once you do, air compresses the sac and ink comes out. Now, this is not a sac filler, so what is it then? I'll get to this in a second. What to watch out for with sac fillers? Sacs are mainly rubber. They perish with age. So if you get yourself a vintage pen, the likelihood is that it has a sac filler. If it has one, the likelihood is that it's perished. The main thing I want you to watch out for is that if the lever is hard to pull out, don't pull it out. if the sac has hardened, it'll be hard enough to break the lever. Okay, so don't do that. Same with leverless fillers, same with anything. If anything doesn't move in a pen, don't force it. That's kind of a principle there. Get it serviced. The pen will need to be disassembled completely. It'll need to be cleaned up thoroughly, and everything that is made of rubber will need to be replaced. The exception will be, let's say, touchdown fillers. I have a touchdown filler somewhere. If you give me a second, I might be able to show you. I wonder if this is the one. Let me see. No, this is probably a bulb filler. But anyway, so this is the same concept, a touchdown filler. You pull this out, and it creates a vacuum when you push it. The moment you get to the very end, the air is released from a notch here, and the sac is, the pressure on the sac is released. Pneumatic fillers basically do the same thing, but instead of having notch here, they have a hole that you hold with your finger. So you push them down and then you release the air. Now with these, they might be, they're a little different from these in the sense that this would still move, even if the sac is hardened. So the trick here to pay attention to is, if it moves, but the pen doesn't fill, that is when you know something's gone wrong. Either the air pressure seals have gone, or the ink sac has gone. So two things to watch out for with, let's say, press down fillers, different types. Now this is a different type. This is a vac filler. A vac filler is different from sac fillers in the sense that I associate this with the first type of pens, which are called barrel fillers. So the ink doesn't go into a sac, it actually goes into the barrel. And there are a few types. So eyedroppers are one type, vac fillers are one type. This particular one has a barrel inside a barrel. Okay, but basically the first version had only the external barrel. What you do is you push this in, the vacuum is created inside the barrel, and the ink gets sucked up. Anybody who's used recently a Visconti with a power filler, it's the same concept, right? Okay. So if what can go wrong here, the seals would have gone. These are not particularly easy to service at home. So if that doesn't suck up ink, it needs to go to a pen repairer. The other type of
Do we still have Noah?
basically go straight in the barrel. What to watch out here? What to watch out for? The type of piston and the age of the piston. So this is a modern one. This is a Pelican M205. And if I twist the knob, the piston knob, as you can see, I'm moving the piston up and down. You can see here that it's a rubber piston. And this will basically suck the ink up. There's another type. I can show you here. Give me a sec. And it's here. Now this is a vintage piston filler. It's an Amicus Gold. I like this pen a lot. It's tiny, but I like it. Anyway, this, same thing, but I don't know if you can see it. That piston is made of cork. And for some reason, there are two of them. I never pulled this apart since I bought it. It works, so I'm not going to try to see what's inside unless it's broken. This is a cork piston filler. Now, what to watch out for? Cork, just like rubber, perishes with age. A couple dozens of years then are enough to let anything perish. If the seal of the piston is gone, then it'll need replacing. Could be could be gone for anything. Could be maybe if heat deforms the barrel. If heat deforms the barrel, that could basically open up the seal. The other option is the seal itself or the piston itself is gone. If it's rubber, it will need replacing. If it's cork, it will need replacing. I have here a little thing to show you as well. This is a piston from a Mont Blanc, a vintage Mont Blanc, and the cork is being placed on it. I'm going to probably redo this one because natural cork has holes, and if there is a hole near the seal, that's not good. So what we do is we remake a cork seal. This will get impregnated with paraffin and then sealed with silicone seal. It creates a very nice cushion inside the barrel. This is the pen it came from. It's a vintage Mont Blanc, and it's going to have a new seal soon. Anyway, so pistons, that's kind of what to watch out for. Don't stress a piston. If it doesn't move, if that thing in the back doesn't move, don't push it, okay? Because basically there's a lot of pressure on the stem also as well. Now, what to do if you get an old pen, it could be stuck because of dry ink or something. Try to get some water inside the pen, shake it around, release the dry ink, slowly try to get it in and out, maybe a couple millimeters at a time. That might sort it. The moment you find that there's probably no pressure at all, or it's not sucking ink, the piston will need to be replaced or serviced in this case. Anyway, so yeah, force, not your friend with pistons either. What else to show you here? There's this kind of eyedroppers, and this knob here doesn't do anything except seal the ink channel. So not much can go wrong with these. I like them. Japanese eyedroppers. Any leaks in the back or in the front will need to be addressed. There was a common issue with this model, a leak that actually, this is Opus 88, and Opus 88 did address the problem and sorted it for many people. For my pens, I used silicone grease in some cases, and in some cases I send them back. Anyway, I'll disassemble the pen for you later, if you like. Okay, so Vacs, we've talked about most of them. I suppose that leaves the Vacuumatics, the Parker Vacuumatics, where basically you get, I consider them to be barrel fillers. They're not sac fillers, but they have what looks like a sac. It's actually a diaphragm. So basically, instead of having a piston, instead of having a piston, you have a diaphragm that goes in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. It pushes air in, air out, ink in, air out, ink in, air out, ink in. And the reason why it works, the secret for it is a little breather tube that goes up to here, usually. But that means you can fill your pen up to where the breather tube goes. What goes wrong with those? The diaphragms perish. But also the tricky bit there is that actually the mechanism may not stop. You may think, oh, this should be working. It's not. It's not. But if it's not filling, the diaphragm is gone. Enemies of anything that has to do with the sacs, heat can cause the sac to perish faster. Heat can goo up the sac, the rubber. Some inks have been reported to destroy or to react with the latex. I'm not sure if Bay State Blue was the one, but it may have been. Do your research. So if you're not sure, if you have a sac filler and you're not sure what ink to go there, what ink to put in there, then you need to do your research, make sure it's a safe ink for the pen. Okay. So that's storing pens with all of these. I'm wary about eyedroppers, but I'm not very worried about anything else. So how to store your pens, whether I always keep them nib up if they go into my pocket or my bag. And I wouldn't say store them pen down, nib down. But I'm not worried about most of these fillers in general because they have been proven to be easily carryable around without issues. At least I've never had a problem with any of them. Okay, so moving on to the next quick topic. We talked about base state blue and Vax. So what ink goes where? Things to watch out for with inks. The main two topics are shimmers and iron golds. I'll need to probably show you a feed somewhere. This is a TWSBI Mini. It's a piston filler. So as you can see, the barrel is what carries the ink, and this is the feed. Now the feed has a narrow channel. With eyedroppers, it has a wide channel because it's made of ebonite. Shimmers will block anything. That's what I want to say in this topic. If you're using shimmers, you'll see if you have like a demonstrator like this one, you'll be able to see them kind of collecting at the bottom. You have to keep it moving around to make sure they're not kind of blocking. They won't cake, if that makes sense, but they will kind of group in the feed. This particular pen has been blocked twice by shimmer inks. So if you want to use shimmer inks, you can. They're not harmful to the pen, but keep the pen clean. So use up a fill, pull out the feed, use a brush or something, or if you have an ultrasonic cleaner, clean up the feed channel. I wouldn't particularly worry about shimmering inks, but what about iron golds? Iron golds are the horror of most fountain pen users, but personally, I wouldn't worry about them. Iron golds are highly acidic and they cause steel to corrode faster. Things to look out for if you're using iron golds: wash your pen every once in a while, every fill, clean it up thoroughly, fill it up again. If you have a gold nib, like a solid gold nib, then don't even think about it. You can just use it as normal. Don't worry about it at all. Remember, iron golds were probably the main inks for everyone once upon a time. Where do I worry about iron golds is if you're using a steel nib. I would worry about that steel nib. They do corrode the steel nibs if they stay in contact with the steel for prolonged lengths of time. How long? There has been varying reports. Some people said 3 months and my nib was gone. Some people said 3 years and my nib was untouched. So really, it depends probably on the alloy of the nib or whatever. I'm not aware of any effect of iron gold inks inside the pen. But yeah, watch out for the steel nibs. Recently, I've seen a nib, a gold-plated steel nib that had an iron gold ink used in it. And when I pulled it out, took the nib out, the gold plating remained on the feed. So it's like you peeled the entire plating off the nib.
Was that my pen? The Lux one?
No, it wasn't yours, Bernardo. It was somebody else's from the group.
Yeah, but I remember that Lux was highly corroded as well.
Oh, yours had a hole in it.
Yeah.
But we had no evidence of what ink was used in there, because the ink in your pen was completely hardened. That nib was nearly impossible to pull out of the feed. But when I did, the feed was completely blocked. The ink had crystallized in your pen, and I don't know what ink it was, so I cannot say that was because of the iron gold. But okay, that's likely because it was eaten up. It's like there's like a caterpillar that's eaten the nib, and you had holes in it. So you could turn it into earrings if you want, or something.
Lovely picture. I'll make cufflinks with them.
Yeah, that's a way to upcycle. Anyway, other things to pay attention to with regards to ink: pigmented inks. Most of them are safe. Some of them cause people horrors. Do your research, you'll find a couple names. I think Mont Blanc Permanent Blue is one that has caused many horrors. If you use that in a demonstrator, it'll probably both stain and the pigment will find a way to ingrain itself on the outside wall. It'll stick there. It's not probably going to go. Now, if you use something like that with a piston filler, imagine there's a little particle there and you're moving this up and down, you could scratch the inside of the barrel. I had a Visconti Homo sapiens Chianti, not this one, when the entire barrel was scuffed because that ink was used in it, and as you try to fill it up, the entire barrel was blue permanently and scuffed from the inside. So do your research with your inks before you use them. Look up for any known issues around the particular ink that you want to use. I would avoid staining inks in demonstrators because I like my demonstrators to be clear. But if you want them stained, then by all means, go for it. Okay, last thing, I think I did mention that latex with some inks can react. I'm not sure if Bay State Blue was the one, but somebody said that they filled their vintage pen with the particular ink and the sac reacted, it just melted. Parker Pim and Sapphire, thank you, Dapperman. Yeah, probably that one. I'm not sure. I haven't had that experience myself, but it's just something that I'm reporting. Okay, finally, let's go to nibs feeds and nib care. So what do we need to pay attention to? This is a Leonardo Furore. So with most modern pens, especially screw-in pens, nibs come in units. So you might want to pull this out or take this in. And so let's say you pull this out. The first thing to remember, pull out the converter. Okay, so don't pull it out with the converter in. That will either grab the tail of the feed or make it impossible to pull out, or difficult, not impossible. This particular one is a screw-in converter, so this is one more thing to pay attention to when you disassemble a pen. I talked about caps. I wanted to also mention converters. Don't just simply assume that you can pull it out. Do double check that it's not a screw-in converter. So with this out, now I can remove the nib unit. What you would do is you want to hold the nib and the feed from the very bottom nearest to the section, and this is where you can unscrew it. Now, some people might just do this. What I do is the other way around. What I do is hold the feed and the nib still, and I actually turn the section. The reason why I do this is because you don't want to apply pressure sideways or in any kind of direction on the surface of the nib. It can be very sensitive. You can misalign the tines doing that. If you apply pressure, let's say on the shoulder, and the tines could be out of alignment. Same thing with putting this in. Yeah, I'll just loosely put it in and then only finger tight, and that's it, ready to go. Now, the reason why with modern pens you don't care what to really tighten it or anything is because you don't actually need a seal. If you put a cartridge straight into the nib unit, this is basically your pen. That's your ink reservoir, your channel, and your nib, and the rest is body. Okay, so it looks nice and it allows you to carry the pen and a cap. I might say a couple of things about the cap in a bit. Okay, let me see. I've probably have missed something. Let's talk a little bit about the cap. Now the cap, okay, let's put this together first. Okay, so a screw-in cap or a pull-out cap, make sure that especially if you grab an unknown pen or somebody else's pen, that you don't just always pull it out. It could be a screw-in cap. As I said, they will scratch, so be careful. Caps have what is known as an inner cap. So an inner cap is another, cap here that matches usually the top of the section. So it really just covers the section and prevents evaporation and whatnot. Now, what happens here, especially with vintage pens, now I'm using a Leonardo, but I'm really thinking about vintage pens, is that when you cap it, this section will push against the inner cap while the threads are all being tightened. So don't over tighten it. You could crack the cap from here, or you could damage the inner cap, or it's more likely that you'll damage the section. Also, one more thing to note is that if you're taking the nibs out or in, pay attention to how deep they go. They need to go deep enough, because if you cap it and it's not the right length, even if it's 1 millimeter out, you will have damaged your nib. You will find that you now have an unintentionally oblique nib that's probably not working. Okay, pulling out the other types of nibs. So not all nibs are screw-in units. Some of them are friction fit, but it's exactly the same thing. So rather than screw it out, again, remember you're pulling out the feed, the converter, hold it in that manner, and pull it out in a straight line from here. Okay, and that's it. These then would go into at least a water bottle. I'll shake it a little bit to remove any inks. And if it requires an ultrasonic cleaner, then it'll go there. Anyway, putting the feed in, there's a little notch here. And usually, if you don't see it here, there might be a notch at the very back of the section that you cannot see. Watch out for that. Also, watch out for a channel that is created for the nib, so you know what direction it's going. I'm now looking through my camera rather than look through at the pen. You fit it, grab it in a way that it won't affect the tines, and push it all the way in, and you're good to go. Make sure if you want to push a bit further, use the shoulders and straight line. If you're touching the shoulders, it's a bit risky, but just a straight line. And I'll use this only if I need to make sure the feed can go in a straight line as well. Okay, what did I miss? Nib wise, what to watch out regarding nibs. If you have like a flex nib or something, the downstrokes, I like them to be always parallel to the slit, with some leeway, but just be careful of doing a lot of pressure while doing sideways, because if that tip catches on paper, you could pretty much misalign the tines. Okay, I'm wary of time. I've just realized it's nearly 10 o'clock. I don't know how time ran out. I was just blabbering all this time. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to just shift to any Q&As. And anything I've missed, I actually had a couple pens that I didn't show you. Maybe I'll pull this out. Okay, somebody says it would be nice to take a pen apart. This is a Conway Stewart, and most vintage pens, well, that's the barrel, that's the section, are either screw-in sections or push-in. This particular one is push-in. It's usually sealed. I'm going to just pull it out the right way, and basically you pull it out. That's your sack. That's where the ink goes, and that's the feed and the nib, of course. And this is the barrel. Now, one thing to say about these, the other question that I was asked was about water. Which pens go into a water bath? In my opinion, none. Especially these. Now, even if this is not made of casein, the bar, the inner bar that pushes against the sack is metal. So if you actually get water in there, if you get it wet, that will rust on with friction on a sack. That will corrode it or kind of wear it out much faster. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to redust this particular sack, put it back in. Yeah, I know, tube. I put my dust in here just because it's long, so I can just do it like that way. And that pen is going back into the drawer. Anyway, that's it from me today. Any questions, I'm happy to address. I'll need to figure out how to correct the camera again. Hello.
Right, we have a first question from John. In the meantime, please ask your questions. I'm gonna do the draw for the inks. John?
Hey, Noah. Thanks for that. Brilliant talk. Really interesting. Just a question about ultrasonic cleaners.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you definitely recommend putting in, or definitely recommend like not to put in? Because they're pretty powerful kind of tools.
Yeah, if you're, I mean, depending on why would you want to use a strong chemical for pens? I can't think of any use for such.
No, an ultrasonic. So just kind of like one of those vibrating bar things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know, but I'm asking, let's say, why would you want to use a strong chemical in an ultrasonic? You might in other areas, maybe jewelry or something. With fountain pens, mostly water will do. A little bit of soapy water will go a long way. The main solution, the chemical solution that you would want to use with most pen cleaning, especially with old ink, is 10% ammonia solution. That is relatively safe. You're not exposing the pen for too long. I don't use it with ultrasonic cleaners, to be honest. I just use mainly water, a bit of soapy water. And if you think about it, it's ammonia. Soap and ammonia are kind of the same. They're alkaline. No, I wouldn't go for anything special. I don't think there is need for that.
Okay, so I mean, for example, like vintage pens, like a sort of a delicate vintage feed, for example. Would you still say, yep, fine to put an ultrasonic, no problem?
Yeah, well, the feed goes in the ultrasonic cleaner, no problem. What I'm more worried about is the body and what it's made of. So unfortunately, there's no quick answer to that. You have to know what the pen is made of, what risks there are when handling, or even if you're not going for an ultrasonic cleaner, you really have to understand the material before you work on it. There's always some risk or another. Ebonite gets brittle with age, for example. You might just be taking your pen apart and it'll just break. So you have to know the material before you start working on the pen. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Any more questions? Let me check. There was a question in the chat. I don't know if it's relevant, but someone asked about your age.
My age?
Yeah, because of the relevance of the pens and whatever.
Let me think. I think I'm 35.
Good. Thomas.
You look about 12.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's the beard, isn't it?
Thomas Ang, please.
Yes. I just kind of, didn't you say you've been involved in fountain pens all your life? Like, how many do you have? Because you do grinding, and that's like a little bit more niche in an already niche hobby. Like people who collect it, there are people who use it, and then there are people who grind nibs. So like, how many do you have, and how many have you then worked on to make them perfect for yourself?
Last year in a pen show, Ian, I forgot your last name. Ian, I can get the name for you if you want. Got me, met me at a pen show and did a little interview and asked me that very same question. At that time, we're talking, I think, November last year, so it may have been a year now. At that time, I had just over 200.
Oh, wow.
And now I don't know how many, but this year I try not to get many pens, so I'm kind of trying to be a bit more wary of what I buy. I still want to cull my pens. I really only want to keep the pens that I use, and I only ever buy a pen if I'm using it. I don't buy to collect. I don't buy because it's cool. I don't buy because it's a piece of art. I buy, if it's a pen, I buy it because it's a pen. I may love it because it's a piece of art, but it's a pen. So any pen that reaches my hand gets inked up and used. Anybody who says that's that pen, today's topic is fountain pen care. And I wanted to start by saying, if you want to care for the pen so much so that you want to put it in a drawer or a box or put it on a shelf, then I don't want to talk to you. The pens are meant to be used.
Yes, pens are meant to be used.
Yes.
But how many of those do you then, like, because you have expensive pens as well.
Yeah.
How many of those do you just decide to put to the grindstone?
Yeah, I will only fix what is broken.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so if I get something and it needs work, I'll do it. If I'm happy with it, I'll keep it as it is. Often you get pens, even sometimes you buy them new, and they will still need tuning or some level of work. I'll do that. No problem. But that I don't consider that to be intrusive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
With grinding, I prefer to grind either broken pens. I'll fix them and then regrind them, create something nice with them, or I'll get nib units. Maybe I'll get some from Phil from Beaufort Ink, and I'll create. I've created a collection, a lineup, if you want, of different grinds. And thank God for the blessing of modern pens, where you can swap your nibs around, where you can just basically put whatever grind you feel like using. Most of the grinds that I did on non-unit pens were already broken.
Right.
That's just me, just kind of me and my philosophy. I'm not against grinding your own pen if you like it. I'll do it if I feel like it, but so far I haven't felt it.
Okay. It's just because I do some of that, and it's really fun to see how people differ in acting towards their own pens. So, well, thank you. That's really nice.
Good. Rod, you can ask your question now.
Hey, Noah, thank you for the chat. That was great.
Hi, Rod.
Just two quick questions. One, is there any particular compound you would recommend for polishing pen bodies and caps?
Okay. No single answer.
Right.
Depending on your material. When polishing came out a couple of days ago on the group, I counted how many polishing compounds I have, and I counted 7. So it really depends on what you're polishing, and if it's a plastic, if it's a metal, if it's how fine you want to go. Often with vintage pens, you want 2 or 3 layers, if you want, of polishing to get the shine out. They're different from the metal ones. Now, for the metal ones, I sometimes use Autosol from the automobile industry.
Yeah.
And I also have Semichrome, which is also very well known in the fountain pen industry, if you want, or let's say community. For plastics, let me see if I can show you what I can reach, because I don't actually know the name by heart. So what I have here is microgloss.
Right. Yep.
Okay, there are 2 grades of that. I would use both. And there's somewhere around here, there's also, I can't find it, a clear optical abrasive or clear optical polish, which is used for clear plastics. It's very fine, and I would use that in some particular cases.
Is there anything you use after polishing them for sort of a protective finish? I've seen some people use some sort of waxes or things like that.
Yeah, wax is an option, but how long is it going to stay on the pen, right?
Yeah.
So the wax that gets used for fountain pens is this one.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be a very high
Renaissance,
quality one. But I mean, they say it's a museum quality thing. Now think about it. Is your pen going into a museum?
Right.
Now I'm not kind of criticizing this, but I'm saying, what are you going to do with your pen? If you're going to use it,
It's
you know, when I said
off.
a bit earlier, caps are going to scratch. If you're going to use your pen, it's going to scratch again. So it really depends on what you want. If you want to protect it, yeah, by all means. If you want to use a layer of wax, go for it. I think it might be worthwhile using wax to delay oxidization on metals.
Okay.
Possibly. How will plastics react to oxygen? I'm not aware of any. Plastics will probably have a bigger enemy in ultraviolet light. So if you keep your pen in the sun, and in the ultraviolet light doesn't reflect off of it. It kind of gets absorbed into it. With time, it's going to disintegrate and it's going to get cracked up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Any more questions? Come on. You guys are asking questions in the chat, but please raise your hand. You know.
How do you raise your hand, Bernardo?
There is you go on your name on the participants list. There is a more, and you can raise your hand.
Yes, please.
Go on. Emil is asking
yes,
a
please.
question.
Oh, okay.
After Emil is Ian, and after Ian is Mike.
Yeah. Noah, with lever fillers, are they particularly difficult to repair or to fix if the lever goes or if the sac goes?
Are lever fillers particularly difficult to repair? The answer is no. Actually, most people who begin doing pen repairs, they usually begin replacing sacs for lever fillers. That doesn't mean anybody who replaces a sac is doing it properly. I'm a bit wary of people, especially no particular person in mind, but eBay listings are infamous for this. People who say this pen has been serviced, but I've seen people who replace sacs and they don't shellac them. Often they don't even powder them. As simple as that is, there are people who don't do that and then they say it's fully serviced. So that's one of the things, it's relative to today's topic, something to be wary of. So no, I wouldn't call it difficult, but I would still say study your pen before you do the job, because you want to understand the materials. You still have to disassemble the pen. And if it's brittle, you might break it. Not too long ago, no, actually a bit long ago, probably a year ago, somebody on the group said, I'm an engineer, I want to do this, I know what I'm doing, I'm fixing this Parker Lucky Curve or something. And he got warnings from at least 2 people not to attempt that pen. 2 days later, he posted, guys, I broke the peg. Now, of course, he didn't know it was called the peg, but I broke something. How do I deal with it? Now, what can you do about this? Now, one of the things that I cannot in good consciousness say to people, go ahead and do your pens, because you don't know where things can go wrong. And I think this is where the knowledge needs to go, not in the actual replacing of the sac, but in what else can go wrong and how to deal with it. But to directly answer your question, I would say replacing a sac is relatively easy.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much.
You have to get all the other things right.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that.
Ian.
Hey, Noah. Thank you very much. Noah, just sort of going on from Emil's question, to be honest, I was going to ask, what would you not suggest as a practice type of filler not to do? However, I'm going to move on from the sac side of things you were just talking to Emil about. Are there any particular inks you would not put in a sac, in a vintage style sac lever filler?
I'm not wary of any unless the ink reacts to the rubber. As I said in the talk, I'm not sure if it's Bay State blue, but there's one particular ink that has been reported probably twice online on the internet that it has melted the sac. Is it that particular batch? Is it that particular sac? Because I'll be honest with you, not all sacs are created equal. If you're buying your sacs, buy them from a reputable place. If they are made with the wrong ratio of material, they can either go gooey too quick or they can harden too quick, go brittle. So it might have been the sac. We cannot just simply easily say it was the ink. But that did happen. It was a noodler. I think it was Bay State blue. Do some research. If one person says it's melted in my sac and 10 people say it didn't, I would probably test it with a cheap pen in a safe environment. This is how my approach would be. But I wouldn't worry too much about any particular ink. Even if it's iron gold, I wouldn't worry about it. even if it's shimmers. If I'm happy to get shimmers in my pen, I'll do it. Now, personally, I don't like shimmers, but I'm not wary of them causing any damage.
Okay. Okay, lovely. Thank you, Noah. Cheers.
Cool, cool. Next is Mike. Please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello, Noah. I've got a Conway Stewart, but it's a lever, and I've got a few lever pens. But you mentioned that it's quite easy to, relatively easy to take them apart. I don't want to force this pen and others. So, is there any advice you can give in terms of, starting the process or just having a look, or what?
Watch out for excessive heat.
Yeah.
Some heat might be needed to release the section, but don't go excessive.
Yeah.
And I think once the section is out, the rest becomes self-explanatory.
Okay.
The old sack needs to go. The inside of the barrel needs to be cleaned up completely. Pay attention to the feed, whether it's clogged or not. If it's clean, that's you sort that on the side.
Yep.
Pay attention to the pressure bar.
Yeah.
The condition of the pressure bar. If it's corroded, I would personally replace it.
Right.
Clean up the inside. Put things back together. An appropriate amount of shellac to seal it. Powder the sack, and then put things back together.
Right. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cool.
Thank you.
Jim, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hey, no. You may well have touched on this in other ways. There are a couple of people in the chat were asking, how long can you leave a pen inked for without worrying?
Depending on the ink. If it's, for example, India ink, I would worry, because that could clog. If it's now shimmer, it's not the kind of dangerous kind of clog, but you can brush those off. So India ink, I would worry about. Iron gold, I would worry if there's steel involved. I wouldn't mind leaving a pen inked. However, on your question, relative to your question, sorry, I'm going to answer a different question, but it's related to yours. Do you store your pens inked or not? In terms of maintenance, is it important to store them inked or not? Some people with piston fillers, especially with cork piston fillers, they ask whether they should. I think that question was on the topic I had on the group. Is it worth filling the pen with water and storing it wet so that the cork does not dry out? That's a myth. If you're not using the pen, I would store it dry.
Okay, so for a standard,
keeping ink. So in other words, keeping ink doesn't particularly help the pen in any way. If you're worried, store it dry. The only ones, as I said, the only ones I would worry about are India and iron gold. Sorry, say again.
So by implication, you're kind of saying for a standard ink, probably a few weeks is okay.
Standard ink like diamine?
Yeah, diamine or
safe ink, I would probably leave it there for 3 or 10 years.
Okay, right, there you go.
Now, unless, of course, pay attention to something, some pens evaporate. If it evaporates, then the ink is gone. It will have whatever is dry inside. It will need a bit of water maybe to move the ink, dislodge it. We're talking about a safe ink. But if the pen, like this Schaefer of mine that never dries out. Now, this is a cartridge converter, so you wouldn't be particularly worried about this anyway. But if you're not worried about evaporations, safe inks are called safe for a reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Joe, can you please ask a question? Noah, you have already the winners on your messengers.
Yeah, I have 3 names. How come I don't have 3 bottles?
They are going to arrive on the post.
Okay, you let me know when you want me to announce them.
Please announce them and then answer Joe's question and we wrap it up.
Okay.
It's okay. My question's been answered already. So my question was answered by your answer to the last question.
Brilliant.
If it's okay to leave them empty.
Yeah, storing pens empty. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say keeping them inked is particularly helpful for the pen. So the sac will not, for example, go hard any less or for any long. It's not going to last any longer because there's ink in it. Okay, it's just going to happen eventually. So store them empty.
So
anyway,
I have to say that my 2SB Eco stays inked forever. And sometimes it stays for like 6 months without even touching there and writes instantly.
Yeah, but, this is a modern plastic also, so it's probably not much is going to happen to it except crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have 3 names of the winners today. Congratulations for James Leo.
Yay!
Matthew Darlison. And Roger Seymour. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. Please send me an email to the same email with your address. And do you have any more questions? We don't have time, but we do have time because I decided to be nice today. It's Saturday. It's Saturday. It's the last day. Tomorrow is the quiz. So Heather, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi Noah, thank you for fixing my Schaefer, my vintage Schaefer. Can I send my Esterbrook to you? I've got an Esterbrook exactly the same as the one you showed, and it's well knackered. Okay, now Esterbrook, since everybody's looking, this is an Esterbrook J. They come in different sizes, and basically they are sac fillers with a lever. And the nice thing about them is that the nib is also removable. So if you screw this out, the nib comes out. Okay, so if you have a damaged nib, you can get a replacement unit. They're vintage, so you have to source one, and you can replace it. They come in different grinds. They are very, very nice pens. The nibs are steel. Okay, so just some information about the Esterbrook's. Yes, definitely you can send your pen. Not worked since the day. It was a eBay purchase that I liked it, but it's never worked, and I've just not got around to sending it to you.
No worries, I'll look after it for you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, Gary Dapperman, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oddly enough, this is about connected with an Esterbrook as well. I picked up an Esterbrook on eBay from a person with reasonable reputation or good reputation for refreshing them, and aside from the fact the sac was cut too short, the actual barrel was a bit loose on the section. But it's very easy to slide the section off. Now I had read somewhere people saying use shellac, and I know in the old days they used to shellac to glue, which is why I use a hairdryer. But the question is, should I consider shellacking the section onto the barrel, or leave as is, or maybe just put a bit of thin paper around just to give some extra friction?
Yeah, how loose is too loose?
Writing it's fine, but if somebody were to try and pull the cap off rather than unscrew it, the barrel would slide straight off.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull out this section on mine. I'll try my other Esterbrook to see if I can.
I can grab mine in about 10 seconds to show.
Okay, so this has just come off. Okay, I hope everybody's looking. So blue Esterbrook. This is the shorter version. And it's not screw-in. It's a J, I think S or L.
SJ.
Yeah, it's either short. I don't know.
Yeah, SJ.
Anyway, so just to give you an idea, I'm putting it back together, and you can see it's not really that. There you go. So it's not shellacked, but that's not going to come out with a simple pull.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, because if you look at mine,
yeah,
I can actually twist the barrel on the section. It's that loose, and it's just a simple pull out, very little pressure to pull out.
Yeah.
So writing, that stays in. It's just bit on the loose side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you want, you can send it to me. I'll just put a little drop of shellac for you. And
I have shellac. So
okay. So what you can, if you're not sure, now shellac is not very.
yeah, I had to redo the.
Okay. So a little drop. A little drop. You don't have to do the whole circumference. A little drop just to hold it in place, and then fit it, let it dry, and see if that helps.
Okay. Second question, if there's nobody else queued up, and
No, go on.
Seen is, I've been fortunate. I've got a number of lever fillers like this one, and an old, very, very cheap 1940s pen, which was my grandfather's repairing at the moment. With the lever fillers, if the lever mechanism has rusted or is broken, is that actually easy to pull out? Does that just pull out for most pens, or is it normally fixed in? And how much of an issue, or how difficult or easy to do? It's the sort of thing you can do without any specialist tools, or
it can be done. There's basically a slider that you can pull out the bar, and when you put it back in, there's a slider that kind of catches. It's like a dovetail joint that meets with the lever itself, so that when it moves, it does this.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you put it in, you just need to make sure that they meet well.
Cool. Cheers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, one thing I'm not happy about with modern replacement pressure bars is that they seem to tend to rust easily. So I just wish that the industry kind of finds a way to either plate them or galvanize them or do something to retard the rusting process on the bars. But that's what we have available right now. Is there any more questions? Are there any more questions?
I don't think so. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you very much, Noah. It was amazing.
Thank you, Bernardo, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for.
It was an amazing talk.
Thank you for your questions. And I'm sorry for taking too long and for blabbering too much.
No,
no, you
Noah,
didn't.
it was fantastic. It was really, really good. You did a great job. It was brilliant.
Thank you.
If
Really
anyone needs the
appreciate
pen fixed, please send to the pen doctor.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Bernardo. Everybody be safe. Mind yourselves.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Bernardo.
Thank you guys very much.
Take care, guys. Bye.
I'll see you tomorrow for the quiz. There are 3 very expensive pens to be won tomorrow. So please join and work hard to be good on that quiz, because there are 3 pens over 100 quid tomorrow.
Scribble after the last one. No hope. No hope.
There is always hope.
There is always hope, you know.
If there's more hitchhikers, I'm all right. But I doubt if it's going to be all based on the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Well, I'm afraid we don't have a whole 42 questions. I'm terribly sorry.
If you ever watch Star Wars, there's always hope.
Can we do teams?
Well, give it a try. It's meant to be fun. Okay?
That's gonna be a booby prize, Steph. That's gonna be a booby prize. It's gonna be a towel.
Well, we all need towels at any time.
Definitely.
And I think if nothing else, this year proved that.
Yes.
Well, but you really need to be a guy who knows where his towel is. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I actually joined Alpha ZZ Alpha, plural Alpha, the official Hitchhikers Club, just to buy the official towel.
Really? Oh my God!
And then, having read the newsletter for 2 issues, I then didn't resubscribe again afterwards.
Yeah, no, I did that a number of years ago and kind of backed out of it quite quickly. I have been kind of amusing myself that maybe that's where we'd find a cure for corona, would be on some spot on somebody's towel. And just nobody had looked there yet.
Well, I think Douglas Adams has already written the negotiations.
They stopped it when Susan Sarandon got into her latter days. unfortunately, unfortunately she died, but the first one, which was cancelled, I actually had tickets for as well.
Really?
There's rumour that there might be somebody else stepping up to take her place as Trillian, and the show may be back.
Wow.
Oh. I was lucky enough to actually meet Douglas Adams many, many years ago. We had him into the College Sci-Fi Society, and he was, if I can bore you for a moment, he was very shy, and we had to keep putting it into a bigger and bigger lecture theatre because just more and more and more and more people wanted to come. And then it was the biggest lecture theatre, all the seats, all the steps, and he just seemed to be blown away by the number of people that were there, hanging on every single word and quoting large segments of The Hitchhiker's Back to him. A lovely, lovely guy.
Right. With that, I'm gonna finish this one.
We'll see you thanks for all the fish.
I see you guys tomorrow, and I have one last word to say: Belgium, Belgium, Belgium,
Belgium, man.
Cheers,
Belgium.
Bernardo. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks very much, Noah. You're brilliant.
That's all.